In my previous video, it was discussed how the oneness doctrine of Yahuah Is Yahusha is actually the Ruach of the Antichrist as confirmed in the scripture. Additional scriptures were further examined, proving that Yahuwah does send us saviors, a Messiah was prophesied to come, and that the Messiah was His word confirmed to be His only begotten Son. If you missed it, the link will be placed in the description field. In this video, we will examine some additional Bible verses that the proponents of the oneness doctrine use to support their arguments in vain, and the verses in scripture which disprove and clarify their misinterpretation and delusion. The first Bible verse that we will look at is John 14 verse 19, which says, Yahusha saith unto him, Have I been so long time with you, and yet hast thou not known me, Philip? He that hath seen me hath seen the Father. And how sayest thou then, Show us the Father? This Bible verse is being misinterpreted to mean that Yahusha is saying they are already looking at the Father because He is the Father, when in fact, Yahusha is actually saying that by looking at Him, they know what the Father looks like because He took on the same form as the Father, not to steal His image, but out of admiration for Him. He then humbled and lowered Himself to the status of man for our sin's sake, for which Elohim honored Him. This is confirmed in Philippians 2 verses 6 to 9, which says, Who being in the form of Elohim, thought it not robbery to be equal with Him, but made Himself of no reputation, and took upon Him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men. And being found in fashion as a man, He humbled Himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross. Wherefore Elohim also hath highly exalted Him, and given Him a name which is above every name. Now, before anyone gets carried away about Yahusha's name being above all names, means He is the Father, please note that scripture confirms Yahusha is above all in heaven and earth except the Father. Hence, though the Father honored His Son, He did not place His Son above Him. This means Yahusha is not the Almighty Elohim. His Father is. The scripture confirming this is 1 Corinthians 15 verse 27, which says, For He hath put all things under His feet. But when He saith all things are put under Him, it is manifest that He is accepted, which did put all things under Him. The next scripture they rely on for their point is John 8 verses 58 to 59, which states, Then said the Jews unto Him, Thou art not yet 50 years old, and hast thou seen Abraham? Yahusha said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am. In this scripture, they believe that Yahusha is Elohim for two reasons. One, He used the word I am, which they believe is solely associated with being Elohim, because in Exodus 3 verse 14, Yahuwah said, I am that I am. And two, they believe only Yah would have existed prior to Abraham and be able to say so in that later time frame. Let's look at the reason why Yahusha actually said, before Abraham was, I am. The reason Yahusha said this was because Yahusha is the Word of the Most High, which existed before Abraham. This is confirmed in John 1 verse 14. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt amongst us. And we beheld His glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. Thus, if Yahusha is the Word of Yah, He would have also been with Yah in heaven before being sent to earth. As the Word of Yah, Yahusha was also involved in creation alongside His Father, the Most High. John 1 verses 1 to 3 says, In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. The same was in the beginning with Elohim. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. Though John 1 verses 1 to 3 clears up the misconception surrounding John 8 verses 58 to 59, it is also one of the verses proponents of the oneness doctrine use to support their argument. The part they rely on in this part of scripture is the first verse, which says, "And the Word was Elohim." Now, we know the Bible has been translated into many languages to spread the word. The English scriptures, of course, are also a translated version of the original Hebrew scriptures and the first Greek translation called the Septuagint, which they also relied on. By looking at the Septuagint, you can see that the English translation, which states that the Word was Elohim, should have instead stated that the Word was as divine as Elohim. For John 1 verse 1, the Greek translation shows there is a grammatical difference in the sentence when referring to Yahuah, the Most High Elohim, and his son Yahusha, also known as the Word. When referring to the Most High, the title that they used is Theon, which in English means God or Elohim in Hebrew. When referring to the Word being Elohim, in the English translation, however, the Greek word used was theos instead of theon. Thus, the sentence is stating that the Word is of the same essence or same divine nature as Elohim. This makes perfect sense because the Word was begotten from Elohim. So why wouldn't it have the same essence or divine nature as Yah? The difference in grammar concerning these Greek words shows that theon is referring to Elohim as the subject in the sentence, while theos is describing the Word as having the same quality and nature as Elohim. Please read the highlighted significance section of this Google AI overview for more clarity, which says, the absence of the article HO in the final clause, combined with its position before the verb, focuses on the nature or quality of the Word rather than identifying the Word as the exact same person as the Father. It acts as a predicative noun describing the quality of the subject, often interpreted as the Word was divine or the Word was of the same nature as Elohim. This grammatical structure ensures that while the Word is identified with Elohim in essence, the Word is still distinguished from Elohim the Father. Now, if it is to be said that this John 1 verse 1 English translation error is to be blamed for the false oneness doctrine, it is not a valid excuse. Reason being, there are so many other parts of Scripture which shows a distinction or difference in identities between the Most High Yahuah and his son Yahusha. Yet they willingly chose to accept this error as the ruling truth, along with a few other misinterpreted scriptures. Whatever happened to weighing probabilities, as in what is the greater probability and the least probable considering the number of supporting scriptures for each side of the argument? People who believe Yahuah Is Yahusha have itchy ears and have leaned towards their personal desire to reject that the Son of Elohim has come in the flesh, which is of course the Ruach of the Antichrist. In other words, they are anti-Messiah. This is rebellion, hence the reason for their delusion. We're now moving on to the heavily misinterpreted scripture that they use to justify that Yahuah is Yahusha. This is John 10 verse 30, which reads, I and my Father are one. They have misinterpreted the scripture to mean that Yahuah and Yahusha have the same identity, when in fact what it really means is that they work in one accord, meaning they are in complete agreement with each other, especially since they share the same Ruach, which is the Ruach HaKodesh. Just like how the body of Messiah shares the same Ruach and is expected to function in one accord, so is Yahusha and his Father. A scripture that demonstrates what it means to be one is 1 Corinthians 12, verses 12 to 14, which states, "For as the body is one, and hath many members, and all the members of that one body being many are one body, so also is Messiah. For by one Ruach we are all baptized unto one body, whether we are Jews or Gentiles, whether we are bond or free, and have been all made to drink into one Ruach. For the body is not one member, but many." Does this scripture imply that neither of us have our own identity because we are one body? No, it does not. It instead identifies that the body has many members, though we work on one accord. Does the scripture imply that we are the Messiah because we are now one with the Messiah? Absolutely not. It instead clarifies that though we have various identities, Jews, Gentiles, bonded, freed, we are all united in the Messiah on one accord because we share the same Ruach. Other supporting scriptures which shows what it means to operate in one accord is Acts 1 verse 14, which says, "These all continued with one accord in prayer and supplication, with the woman and Mary the mother of Yahusha, and with his brethren." Acts 2 verse 46, which says, "And they continuing daily with one accord in the temple, and breaking bread from house to house, did eat their meat with gladness and singleness of heart." Also Acts 4 verse 24, which says, "And when they heard that, they lifted up their voice to Elohim with one accord, and said, Yahuah, thou art Elohim, which has made heaven and earth and the sea and all that is in them." Further, I want to clarify that John 10 verse 30 is clearly being cherry-picked, because one verse before that, in John 10 verse 29, it says, "My Father which gave them me is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand." In this verse, Yahusha distinguishes his identity from his Father, while showing it was his Father's decision to give us to him. This confirms that the Father agrees with us being in Yahusha, and they work in one accord. Now, the final scripture we will look at that they also use is Isaiah 42 verse 8, which reads, "I am Yahuah, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another, neither my praise to graven images." The issue here is that the Father does not need to be the Son to receive his glory, because the Son gives all the glory back to his Father. Hence, acknowledging Yahusha as the Son of Elohim does not take any glory away from the Father. It instead glorifies the Father because the Son came to do his Father's will. Some scriptures which confirm that Yahusha gives all glory back to his Father are John 14 verses 10 to 11, which says, "Believest thou not that I am in the Father, and the Father in me? The words that I speak unto you, I speak not of myself, but the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Believe me that I am in the Father, and the Father in me, or else believe me for the very works' sake." There is Matthew 19 verse 17, "And he said unto him, Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is Elohim. But if thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments." Matthew 4 verse 10, "Then saith Yahusha unto him, Get thee hence, Hashatan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship Yahuah thy Elohim, and him only shalt thou serve." Even Yahusha's name gives glory back to the Father, as he came in his Father's name. John 5 verse 43 says, "I am come in my Father's name, and ye receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him he will receive. The meaning of the name Yahusha is literally Yah is salvation. Again, the Father does not need to be the Son to receive his glory, because the Son gives all the glory back to his Father. Yahuah is not Yahusha. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to catch the latest uploads. Shalom, Mishpaka.